Well, hello again to everyone and welcome back to the channel. I'm Charles Nathan, your friendly guide helping you to navigate the shadowy swamp that is the modern British state. Today we're taking a look at a recent meeting of the Environmental Audit Committee as they discuss the risks and opportunities to the sustainability of data centres in the UK. Now, as probably everyone watching knows, data centres are a rapidly growing sector of industry within the UK and elsewhere. However, there are a lot of environmental costs and dangers associated with them, and that's what the committee's been discussing. The Environmental Audit Committee is a large committee consisting of 16 members, and within that we've got 9 Labour MPs, 2 Tories, 3 Lib Dems, 1 Green Party MP and 1 from the DUP. This was a long meeting consisting of 2 sessions of roughly 1 hour each. Witnesses in the first session were, and by the way, all the mispronunciations are all my own, so sorry to everyone, Tony Langengen, or Langengen, Senior Policy Advisor for Energy at the Tony Blair Institute, Adam Eaton, CEO of Virtus Data Centres, and Arka Chanda, an Associate at the Centre for Economic Transition Expertise, or CETEX. In the second session, we had Dr. Alejandro Gallego-Schmid, a researcher on climate change at the University of Manchester, Stephen Bussetti, representing Siemens, and John Pablo, Head of External Affairs at the Association for Decentralised Energy. Once again, I'd like to apologise to anyone whose name I've mangled and mispronounced on that list, which is probably all of you. Moving forward though, with all the hype around AI and the golden new dawn that it's apparently going to be bringing us all into, it's important to know what it actually means in real practical terms. All those funny cat videos don't just make themselves, and they are being produced by highly energy intensive data centres. And it's worth here listening to Dr. Gallego-Schmid summarising just how badly things can go wrong if we don't keep a close eye on things.
But also, I think we have not only to see where things have been done correctly, but what places where things have gone wrong. In Ireland, we are talking that 21% of the electricity consumption of the country is used for data centers. 48% of the consumption of electricity in Dublin goes to data centers. And that have produced that in Dublin, for example, there is a moratoria. And there are 1 year of a moratoria as well in New York, in the state of New York.
Now those numbers are quite staggering and they're almost impossible to believe, but that's the reality of what the AI boom really means in terms of energy and environmental impact. Not only that, there are a lot of downstream impacts as well, particularly in the United States, where householders living near data centres have seen huge increases in their energy costs. So could we see something similar happening here?
Electricity prices near data centres have increased up to sort of 260 odd percent in the last 5 years. And I just wondered what the three of you quickly thought about the implications of data centre growth in the UK and its energy systems. And are we going to expect households to see similar cost rises? I'll start with Mr.
Yeah. Happy to answer that question. Energy cost is clearly, first of all, it's clearly one of the biggest, it is a barrier to investing in the UK, and it is something that is also impacting, it's leading to this tech clash that we're seeing happening around in the US in particular. That obviously wouldn't happen in the same way in the UK, in particular because we have a national price, so the impacts wouldn't happen in the same way. I also think that one thing that is really important to remember about the UK system is that one of the most important challenges of the energy system now, and one of the most important reasons why electricity is expensive in the UK, is because demand has gone down and we've built more infrastructure. So we have to find ways of stimulating more electricity demand, because when we're investing in grid, in renewables, these are fixed costs on the grid. The more people who are connected to the grid, the more we kind of spread those costs out.
Yeah, you did hear that right. I had to go back and listen to it again myself. Only in the rarefied atmosphere of the Tony Blair Institute could having a surplus of something somehow make it more expensive. But there we are. I guess I was asleep when they taught economics that day. Not only that, but we've been told for decades now by everybody with any access to the media that increasing our carbon footprint is bad and it means that the planet and ourselves will all die horribly. Now, bearing in mind that these data centers, particularly the AI ones, consume massive amounts of energy, that's got to be a bad thing, right? Well, looking forward, I've no doubt that data centers will become more efficient in the future, but there's no way they can bridge the gap between efficiency and demand for energy. It's very interesting to listen to the Quangocracy talk about plugging more data centers into the grid and stimulating demand for electricity, particularly when us little peons are banned from using fluorescent bulbs and face a hosepipe ban every time there's 2 weeks' worth of sunshine. So I think we can see really where the nation-state's priorities lie, and it's certainly not with us. At least the good news is we'll get some much-needed private investment into improving the electricity grid. After all, if these energy-hungry data centres want to keep running 24/7, they're going to have to improve the grid and pay for it themselves. You would think so, wouldn't you?
Consumers in the UK are not likely to experience a huge spikes in the cost of energy because of a data centre being located near them due to the fact that we have a national price. But there's another cost which is involved in supplying electricity to data centres, and that is the fact that the grid very often has to be upgraded and strengthened because A, you're using huge amounts of electricity, and secondly, probably bringing them, especially if what Mr. Eaton said, 70% of your electricity is from renewable sources such as wind, so the grid has to be strengthened and maybe changes made to it. When it comes to those grid strengthenings and connections, are data centres charged for the work which is required to be done, or are those costs passed on to the consumer just through the general imposition on their electricity bill?
So data center providers are charged in the same way that any other consumer is, I'm pretty sure, yes. So that means that there's a few levels up where they're charged, and then the rest is socialized into everyone's bills.
Welcome to the UK energy market, a magical place where the laws of economics work backwards. We've already discovered during this session that the reason for our sky-high energy costs isn't electricity scarcity, as apparently we have too much generating capacity. Yet somehow it still gets more expensive for householders and businesses every year. Not only that, but the cost of upgrading the grid for the benefit of these multi-billion-dollar data companies, which by the way are coming in to replace other industries which have been driven out by astronomical energy costs, but we'll not go down that rabbit hole right now, is something else the long-suffering consumer, i.e. you and me, are expected to pay for. Only an advanced quangocracy like modern Britain could produce such obvious absurdities and say them with a straight face. One thing is certain, it does take many decades of intensive and very expensive education to make normal people this monumentally stupid. So despite how efficient these data centres might become in the future, we still are going to have to decide whether we really believe net zero is a good thing or whether we think AI will save us all from death and starvation. We can't have both, and we're going to have to choose one. I'll leave that up to the viewer to decide which is more important. I hope that's been informative. Please like, share, comment, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. It helps to keep the channel growing, and it helps to get these important messages out to people, because always remember, our ignorance is their power. Take care, and I'll see you all again very soon. Bye for now.